Hello, everybody. This is Parrish Alford with the Daily Journal, talking a little Ole Miss basketball this morning. The Rebels have a big game coming up Saturday night, the final regular season game. Vanderbilt will be in town, and I'm joined by Mitch Light of Athlon Sports. Mitch, how are you, man?
Parrish, doing great. A little chilly, but I'm doing well.
That's okay. Now, you guys, I've read all about this Nashville weather. Now, it's been pretty bad down here in and around Tupelo, but, Nashville's been closed for a while, hasn't it?
Yeah, school's closed for the second day today. I got two kids in metro schools, and they've had probably about 4 days of school in the last 3 weeks, and then they got spring break coming up in a week and a half. So it's been crazy.
Well, I tell you what, Tupelo and so many in our area were out yesterday. So many are still out today, and spring break starts Monday. Tupelo actually had a delayed start. But let's talk Ole Miss-Vanderbilt a little bit before we get to basketball, Mitch. I want to talk to you about a long time ago. You and I conversed about Chucky Mullins and Brad Gaines during and in and around the football game last year. And as a student back at that time, I believe, you wrote a column about Chucky and Brad after the hit. Tell me a little bit about that. What do you remember about that time?
Yeah, I was not at the game. Parrish, was my freshman year in college, and I was writing for the school paper, but some other people, some of my good friends were down there. And I remember it well, but I was actually in Oxford the next year, my sophomore year in college, for a Vanderbilt Ole Miss game, and they were honoring Chucky, just retiring his number, doing something at halftime of the Vanderbilt Ole Miss basketball game, and he was just sitting there, in his wheelchair, and I just went over and asked if I could talk to him, and I introduced myself, told him I was from the Vanderbilt school paper, and had about a 10-15-minute conversation with him. We actually had some mutual friends, some guys he played with in high school football I knew on the Vanderbilt football team, and just had a great discussion with him, and could see why he was so popular and so beloved by the Ole Miss community. And I just never forget that. I wrote a column, went down to cover a basketball game and wrote a column about a football player. And now, as you know, Parrish, I'm the sideline reporter for the Vanderbilt radio network, and Vanderbilt's color commentator is John Gromos, the quarterback who threw that pass to Brad Gaines. So, every time we go down to Oxford, I talk about that play with John a lot. So it was obviously a huge part of the fabric of Ole Miss football, but it also obviously touched a lot of people here in Nashville as well.
I know that was a very emotional event on both sides. Why do you think Brad Gaines has, I guess, just continues to live that out and continues to honor Chucky? I mean, that event has really touched him and has stayed with him so much through the years.
It's changed his life. I mean, it's amazing, and I assume you saw the 30 for 30 or the SEC Storied, whatever the official title was, and it really chronicled that very well. And you just don't know what makes a guy tick and why that had affected him so much. It's not like it was a dirty hit or something he did. All he did was try and catch a pass that might have been a little too high. So he's just kind of opened himself up for that hit. So it really is. It's a study in psychology, Parrish, about how and why guys are affected certain ways, but it really is amazing how even to this day it affects Brad Gaines so much.
It really is, and the SEC did a good job with that piece. Let's talk basketball a little bit. Mitch, I look at Vanderbilt. I see a team that once lost 7 straight games, has now won 7 of 9, is going to start 3 freshmen, at least among their projected starters. What do you make of the Commodores right now?
Yeah, not just 3 freshmen. They basically play 8 players, Parrish, and 5 of the 8 guys are 5 of the 8 rotation guys are freshmen. Things are always somewhere in the middle. This team wasn't as bad as it looked during the 7-game losing streak, and if you really looked at the numbers, a lot of close losses in those 7 games. Lost to LSU here in Nashville in overtime, a game that they clearly could have won. But during this 7-game winning streak, on the positive side, just playing really good basketball and shooting very, very well of late, starting basically with that second half against Tennessee where they just something like missed 3 shots total in a half, and then carried that over to the Alabama game and then Mississippi State. One thing is, during the 7-game winning streak, they have not defeated any of the, I guess we can call them the Big Six in the SEC, the teams that are projected to go to the NCAA tournament. They're beating the teams that maybe they should be beating in the lower part. But those are some of those teams they weren't beating earlier. A couple keys, Parishes. Wade Baldwin, freshman point guard, has been fantastic. Kind of made national news with that thing with Kevin Stallings last week, but kind of overshadowing how good he's been. Really tough kid, strong kid. He's shooting the ball very well. He'll make a few head-scratching turnovers during a game, but he is a freshman. But he's plays with a swagger, very confident, and they're just shooting the ball very well. Luke Cornett, the big 7-footer, the sophomore. Matthew Fisher-Davis, who kind of got off to a slow start because of injury this year, one of the best pure shooters you'll see. So I remember there was a game in Oxford a couple years ago with the John Jenkins and Jeffrey Taylor team where I think Vanderbilt went down there and hit like maybe 10 threes in the first half and was up by maybe 30 points at some point. This team, I would say, clearly not as talented overall as that team, but it's a better shooting team than that team.
What do you think's helped them get on a roll so much with their shooting? Because I think that's a key item to look at going into this game. Ole Miss has not been shooting it well of late until the second half against Alabama when they shot 61% and kind of pulled away. It never really just buried the Tide, but gained control, gained some separation with about 9 minutes left after Ladarius White knocked down back-to-back three-pointers. But on the whole, Ole Miss hasn't been shooting it that well lately. And Ole Miss doesn't guard the three well. That's kind of something difficult for them to do with as much zone defense as they play. I think they're 10th in the SEC in three-point field goal defense right now. What do you think's helped Vanderbilt's young guys get on the roll?
Confidence, one thing. Just seeing the ball go through the basket helps you for the next time you play. And I think just as the seasons progress, they become more familiar with the offense. Kevin Stallings runs a lot of intricate offensive stuff, sets, and against zone and man, and they're more familiar with it. And the floor's opened up a lot. Luke Cornett got off to a really good start to the season, then kind of struggled shooting the ball early in conference play. When he's shooting the ball well, and Matthew Fisher-Davis is shooting the ball well, there's so many players teams have to guard. And then I haven't even mentioned Damian Jones yet. And I thought actually Donnie Tyndall, the Tennessee coach, did a really good job in his post-game interview explaining that the problem of guarding Vanderbilt when they're playing well is because they've got all these shooters and you got to get out there, but then you've also got to shade towards Damian Jones inside because when he gets the ball in his hands, he's one of the best low-post scorers in the league. So, I thought going into the season this could be a really good offensive team for Vanderbilt, but they're just so young. And when a couple guys are shooting the ball well, like I said, it just opens up the floor. So that will be, I guess, one of the big storylines is, how well will Vanderbilt shoot against an Ole Miss team that, you say doesn't guard the three very well. But a lot of it's just streaky, too. They went down to Florida 2 weeks ago, and a game they clearly could have won. That was back when Florida had, both their top, Frazier was still out, and he still is out, and Dorian Finney-Smith was suspended. And you're not going to find many Florida teams that are, put it this way, you're not going to play a worse Florida team in Gainesville ever than Vanderbilt saw that night and just didn't shoot the ball well enough to win that game. So it's not like they've just been on an absolute tear.
On the flip side of that, it doesn't look like Vanderbilt itself guards the three extremely well. What's this team like defensively?
It's funny because the numbers, Kevin Stallings makes jokes about it sometimes, and there's always two sides to that. One is, maybe teams shoot the ball well because you're not defending them very well. Like, perfect example, I don't know if you saw or anyone listening here saw the Vanderbilt-Mississippi State game the other night. State, not known for its shooting, comes out and hits 6 of 7 from 3 in the first half. I think 6 in a row at one point. And you can sit there and say, oh, what's going on? This is so unlucky. But if you really watch it, most of those were wide open. In the second half, Vanderbilt was more aggressive defensively. I don't think Mississippi State even attempted a three-pointer until late in the second half. So not only were they not shooting them, Vanderbilt was taking that away from them. So I would say it's probably an average defensive team for Vanderbilt, and they have been victimized by some really good three-point shooting by some teams, but a lot of that, some young guys getting out of position. Maybe not some great individual one-on-one defenders like Riley LaChance, the freshman, Matthew Fisher-Davis, not a great defender. Jeff Roberson is a kid from Houston. Spring signee, wasn't very highly recruited, but a tough kid. He's a small forward who's probably their best perimeter defender. So if they go man, he's kind of a 6'4", 6'5" kid. I don't know if you put him on Stephen Moody, but that might be a matchup to watch.
Now, do you do any radio work with basketball, Mitch?
No, just sideline for football. So that's all.
Well, tell us about baseball, man. A second straight national championship coming for the Commodores.
Not if they don't stop they got to stop walking people. You know, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I would say this pitching staff leads the SEC in walks probably by 40 or 50 walks, and I'm not kidding. It's unbelievable how many guys that they're walking. The frontline guys have been pitching well, like Carson Fulmer has pitched well. Walker Buehler, who's been out with an injury, he made his debut Tuesday through 2 solid innings, and looks like he's going to get the start Sunday against TCU. Vanderbilt's out in L.A. this week. You know, I just talked to a friend who's out there. It's 75 and sunny while it's 9 degrees here in Nashville. So they play UCLA tonight, USC tomorrow, and TCU on Sunday. So it's clearly a team that probably has more overall talent than last year's team. But as you know, watching college baseball, you've seen a lot of Ole Miss teams that have some talent, have a lot of talent that didn't get it done. Last year's team got it done. So it's playing well at the right time, but it's clearly a talented Vanderbilt baseball team.
Now, I think I read somewhere, Mitch, that Athlon Sports was getting ready to finance the Tim Corbin statue. Did I get all of that right there?
Close. Yeah. No, it's funny because they are building. I know there's some talk locally about some fans wanting to build a statue, but I was at the game the other day and they're building a little thing right when you walk in, some brick thing where they're going to put the national championship trophy. So they're not shy about telling everyone they won the national title, nor should they be.
No, nor should they be. That's good. Good stuff, Mitch. Thanks for being with us, man. Are you going to make it to the game, or will I just when will I see you next time?
SEC tournament next weekend. I will be here in Nashville. I will be coaching about 4 basketball games tomorrow. My son's got a tournament, so I should be home for the friendly confines on the couch tomorrow to watch the game.
All right, Mitch. Good stuff, man. I look forward to seeing you next week.
Take care, Parrish.